Donald Trump has just made a shocking move, and it's no exaggeration to say he has declared war on the American people. His recent statement lays out a plan that sounds less like protecting the nation and more like turning the military against U.S. citizens. In fact, Pam Bondi, one of Trump's close allies, released a video detailing exactly how this will unfold, including deploying troops to Portland. The disturbing part isn't just the order itself, but the language used and what it means for the future of civil liberty. Trump claimed he is acting at the request of Homeland Security to protect war-ravaged Portland and federal facilities from so-called Antifa and domestic terrorists. He even went so far as to authorize full force if necessary. That phrase, full force, should stop everyone in their tracks. What exactly does it mean when a sitting president tells the military to use full force on American soil? To many, it reads as open permission for violence, even lethal action against protesters. The justification here is built on shaky ground. Antifa, which Trump and his supporters repeatedly point to as an organized terrorist movement, doesn't actually exist in that form. Unlike far-right groups such as the Proud Boys, there is no central Antifa organization with leaders, membership, or fundraising. It's a loose label applied to activists, not a structured network. Yet Trump continues to push this narrative, creating a phantom enemy to justify military intervention. Meanwhile, videos from the ground show something very different than what Trump described. Footage has surfaced of ICE agents escalating confrontations, not protesters. In one viral clip, an ICE officer dropped his handgun during an arrest and appeared to point it toward bystanders after retrieving it. In another case, an ICE agent shoved a woman to the floor during a protest. That officer was later removed from duty, but only after the incident drew widespread outrage. These examples suggest that the so-called war zone atmosphere is being fueled by federal agents themselves, not by citizens exercising their right to protest. Bondi's video framed the situation as part of a broader wave of political violence, claiming that Trump has survived assassination attempts, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was targeted, and other conservative figures were attacked. She even claimed ICE facilities have been under siege by armed rioters chanting violent slogans. Her words painted a picture of chaos, radical extremists, and a nation on the brink of collapse, all used to justify Trump's military escalation. But when you look closer, the picture doesn't hold up. The protests in Portland and elsewhere have overwhelmingly been peaceful, even when police and federal officers have responded with aggression. Videos from the streets show citizens demanding accountability, not staging organized attacks. If anything, the heavy-handed tactics by federal authorities are what turned peaceful demonstrations into tense standoffs. By calling protesters criminal and treating dissent like terrorism, Trump and his allies create a narrative where military force appears like the only solution. The phrase war-ravaged Portland is especially misleading. Portland is not a war zone. The city has had protests like many others, but to describe it as destroyed or overrun is pure propaganda. And the idea that federal agents are being targeted in coordinated terrorist plots ignores the reality that many Americans are simply outraged by how ICE and other agencies treat immigrants, refugees, and protesters. Doxing ICE officers may be controversial, but it is a reaction to real abuses carried out under this administration. Then comes the executive order. Trump signed a Directive 3, attaining prosecution against anyone who provides financial support to Antifa. Again, this is built on a fiction. There is no centralized Antifa group receiving funding. The order is not about stopping extremists. It's about intimidating dissenters and scaring people away from protesting at all. Trump has already used federal troops at the southern border and in Washington, D.C., where there was no crime wave to justify it. He sent forces to California during protests, even though local authorities did not request it. Now he is doing the same in Memphis and threatening to expand this model nationwide. The trend is clear. He is normalizing the use of military power against his own people. This escalation should worry everyone, regardless of political beliefs. Once a president takes it upon himself to label protesters as terrorists and order the military to move in, it sets a dangerous precedent. Who decides which protests count as legitimate? Who decides when full force is necessary? In Trump's framing, anyone opposing him can be branded an extremist and crushed under federal power. The deeper question is, where does this stop? At what point do states and cities say no? Governors and mayors didn't invite this military presence, and in many cases, they have publicly opposed it. Yet Trump continues to insert federal agents where they are not wanted. If left unchecked, this could erode the entire balance of state and federal authority, not to mention basic democratic freedom. History shows us what happens when leaders use outside threats or exaggerated dangers as excuses to clamp down on their own citizens. Civil liberties shrink, dissent is silenced, and violence becomes normalized. Trump is now walking that path by calling protests attacks and labeling ordinary citizens as terrorists. And his allies, like Bondi, are reinforcing that message by painting a picture of chaos and violence that doesn't match reality. But here's the critical part. People do have the power to push B. We've seen moments when public outcry forced accountability, like the ICE officer who was removed after shoving a protester. It shows that officials are not immune to consequences. Pressure from citizens, from local leaders, and from the media can still make a difference. The key is refusing to accept this new normal of military force against America. The message from Trump is clear. Dissent will be met with aggression. But the response from the public must be equally clear. Authoritarian overreach will not be tolerated. Peaceful protest is a cornerstone of democracy, and labeling it as terrorism is both dishonest and dangerous. The coming weeks and months will reveal whether this country allows military crackdowns to become standard practice, or whether people stand up to demand accountability. Trump declaring war on America is not just rhetoric. It's a plan being put into action step by step, city by city. And unless it is challenged, the idea of using full military force on American soil could become a reality. The question now isn't whether it's happening, it's how far it will go and who will stop it. This is not a moment to look away. This is a turning point that will shape the future of civil rights and democracy in the United States. Whether you agree or disagree with the protests, everyone should recognize the danger of a president using military power to silence his critics. That's not leadership, that's authoritarianism. And it's happening right now,